Charlotte's incredibly brave in a way that is very inspiring. She is someone who had to rise to the occasion to recognize where are the challenges. I'm gonna just go there, even if no one else has done it before. I'm gonna make that path and then show others how to do it.
Dr. Jacobs is very inspirational, and she inspires not only me, but many other people, from her success of her mentees, to her colleagues, to her trainees, and to the people who read the books that she writes.
She exudes this positive attitude and approach to life. No matter how challenging the problem, how difficult the situation, she's been able to blend her love of science and her love of the arts into a way that are complementary. Very few people can do that, and she does it extremely well.
From the time I was 5 years old, I knew I wanted to be a doctor. But that was not something you talked about because the expectation was that I would be a homemaker. When I was 13 years old, my next door neighbor came over and she said, "Why, Charlotte, honey, you're 13 years old today, you can go get hitched." And that was kind of what they thought would happen. I grew up in Kingsport, Tennessee, which is in the northeast tip of the state in the Appalachian region. My parents loved life. They loved people. My father played the violin, my mother played the piano, so there was always music in the house. We went for picnics and hikes. And we had very little means, but my father insisted that we have a library card. When it came to applying to college, I loved the University of Rochester. It had very strong science and had a very strong musical theater program in the college. So there I could work in the Brain Research Center, and every semester I was engaged in a musical theater. So I was in heaven. I mean, it was the perfect choice for me.
Charlotte Jacobs was a fellow in our oncology training program, and she was one of the best fellows we've ever had. Saul Rosenberg was a medical oncologist and specialized in lymphoma and Hodgkin's disease care. Henry Kaplan was a radiotherapist and chairman of the Department of Radiotherapy. They would have a conference every week in which they would fight and argue over what to do in their research and how to treat certain patients, and we would all sit around and watch this conference and learn from it.
When I heard Saul Rosenberg and Henry Kaplan, both who were greats, arguing about the approach to Hodgkin's disease and having this kind of galley of people and talking about the patient. And most of their major changes in the world of oncology were done through clinical trials. So here was the role model, the two role models that I wanted.
Early on, Charlotte began working with Bill Fee in ENT and Don Goffinet in radiation oncology. Charlotte became the third in this triad, and the three of them started a multidisciplinary head and neck clinic.
The challenge of head and neck cancer was beyond any cancer I had dealt with yet, because the disease itself is so incredibly destructive, and the treatment is so debilitating. So much needed to be done, and there was nothing in the field of medical oncology for head and neck cancer. There was one drug, and oncologists just shied away from those patients. But at the time, in testicular cancer, there was a drug called cisplatin, which was brand new, experimental, and it was just melting these metastatic testicular cancers. I wanted to try it in head and neck cancer. So I went to the VA hospital. There was a pilot there, and he was in his 50s, and he had these big masses in his lung. And I asked him if I could try this experimental drug on him. The tumors melted away. I couldn't believe it. I mean, we had a new drug for head and neck cancer. Oh my gosh, I was so excited. And now this drug was on the map. We did a trial, pretty decent response rate, about 50%, and we had a drug. Bill and Don and I toyed with this idea: what if we could give chemotherapy first and shrink the tumor? And if we got a complete tumor shrinkage, we would not do the surgery and just have radiation. Now that was just a kind of heretical idea. We formed a big national cooperative group of head and neck cancer surgeons and radiotherapists and medical oncologists, and kind of really helped change the field to organ preservation.
Charlotte Jacobs, because of her own style of medicine, knew the value of collaboration between the different disciplines of surgery and radiotherapy and medical oncology. Her vision was to put them all in the same building, practicing side by side, so they could consult each other continually and bring the best available for every patient.
I remember one Saturday afternoon I got a call from David Korn. David Korn was the dean, and he said, "I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. I want your help." I said, "Well, what's the matter?" He said, "Well, I decided that I want to build a clinical cancer center at Stanford, and I need you to do it." And Sarah and I got to design it.
This is a heroic task, and it's not something you do overnight. But Charlotte took that on. She asked me to be her associate director. We needed a building. We needed a program. We needed colleagues. We needed money. We needed a lot. Charlotte wanted to take the best traits that Saul offered and the best traits that Henry offered and put them together to do a job that now is the way that oncologic care is practiced worldwide. Inclusivity brings strength, and Charlotte brought that to Stanford.
To see her and Dr. Donaldson as two women who were doing a fantastic job of leading and growing this group was very inspirational. I think that it is important to speak about the fact that if you are from a group that has not traditionally been part of a specific career, it is helpful to see others who are like you, who are going through some of those same challenges, who have that success.
When Dr. Jacobs became a dean of medical education, she was especially interested in equity to make sure that people were comfortable, felt safe, felt appreciated and promoted.
We were becoming aware of the complete disregard for faculty and students of different gender, multicultural backgrounds, and that it was making them uncomfortable and feeling unwanted, and decided to do a survey and find out how much of a problem is this. And we ended up with the first mandated sexual harassment training in any medical school in the country. David and I wrote a paper in Academic Medicine, and a lot of people wanted to hear about what we had done and to model that. There's so many mountains to climb still, but that was my favorite part of being a senior associate dean.
Charlotte has played the role and lived the life, so she knows what it's like to be a wife, a mother, and what it's like to be on call when you have a sick child. She's lived that experience. So whatever lessons that she's learned along her way, she turns into advice for her own trainees to help them along their career.
Charlotte's an amazing physician in how she's able to engage with patients and interact with them. As medical oncologists, we have to grapple with a lot of difficult situations with wonderful people who get very sick and have horrible things happening to them from their disease. What she helped me see was you can really make a big difference by tackling a disease where there isn't much that we can do, where it might be rare, so it's harder to study, and yet you can make a very significant impact in the lives of the people with that disease by learning everything there is to know and by trying to advance that knowledge forward.
After she completed her service as an administrator and as associate dean, she returned to medical practice and taking care of patients, veterans in particular, and she always talked about how her patients gave her solace.
Patients are the whole reason for our existence in terms of what we do in that career. I mean, they should be the center. Whether it's our research or whatever we're doing, the patient is in the center. Every year I get Christmas cards, and when I see pictures of people who kind of like went through hell and survived, and then you see pictures of their children, and then you see pictures of their grandchildren, and you see pictures of them in their trip to Greece, and that's what it's all about. That's my greatest accomplishment.